Turkey's economy is picking up pace beyond analyst expectations. Its GDP grew by 3.8% in the second quarter compared to the same period last year. That's the second strongest growth rate among OECD countries. On a quarterly basis, the Turkish economy also grew 3.5%, reversing a 0.1% contraction witnessed in the first 3 months of the year. Household spending contributed the lion's share of this growth, with a nearly 15% jump. That's thanks to fiscal stimulus and cheap borrowing costs ahead of the May elections, which saw Recep Tayyip Erdogan re-elected as president. But strong domestic demand fueled a sharp rise in imports, causing the trade deficit to widen. Shipments to the country jumped 20% during the period, while exports were down around 9%, as demand from other economies remained sluggish. Government spending was also on the rise, as Ankara remained focused on rebuilding and rehabilitation in areas affected by the devastating twin earthquakes that hit in February, claiming the lives of more than 50,000 people and causing billions of dollars in damages. After forecast beating figures for the April to June period, Moody's has revised Turkey's economic growth estimate for 2023 to 4.2%. That's up from 2.6% in its May outlook. Last month, the rating agency also said Turkey's credit score could be upgraded if the country continues its mainstream economic policies. In June, the Turkish Central Bank embarked upon a tightening cycle after former Wall Street banker Hafize Gaye Erkan took the helm. The bank has since raised its policy rate by a whopping 16.5 percentage points as it looks to tame inflation, but some analysts warn that the hikes may come at a cost.
When we look at the policy framework since the last June, we have been watching that the policy is mainly oriented to slow down the domestic demand. And we will see its outcomes in the next few months because there are signs in the leading early economic indicators the economy is slowing down.
Treasury and Finance Minister Mehmet Şimşek hailed the latest growth numbers, saying the policies are needed in order to put growth on a sustainable path. Meanwhile, over 7 million foreigners visited the country in July, marking an all-time high for the month. Turkey is now tapping into key summer tourism industry revenues, hoping to shrink its current account deficit and maintain growth into the next quarter. Omer Bakkaloglu, TRT World.
For more on this now, let's go to economist Murat Ferman in Istanbul. Thank you for joining us. Murat, what have the main drivers of this positive GDP print been?
Greetings to all from Istanbul, Turkey. First and foremost, I must stress out an important fact one more time. The second quarter, those times that we are talking about, were quite peculiar regarding two aspects. It was during the earthquake, unfortunate incident, and as well as the general elections took place in that very second quarter. Therefore, we really witnessed some peculiar objectives and some developments to be considered during that period. However, the second period did not differ herself from the first period in characteristics and so-called analysis of economic growth. Once again, as it happened in the first quarter, the major engine or driving force for this impressive growth has been household expenditures.
Right.
Unfortunately, the exports so-called championship has continued to erode in a sense that although there was a boost in imports, we have lost some steam in increasing the exports. Therefore, it has really demonstrated the same basic characteristic identification just as in the first quarter.
Right.
One more thing. Of course, those that were the days just before election. The economy was in a rather not so restrictive period, but rather than that, the credits and availability and the interest of credits have been all-time low.
Right.
Therefore, it was a boost to increase imports. And then, of course, industry also lost some steam.
As you said, household expenditure was high. Government expenditure was also really high after
Yes.
the two earthquakes that took place in Turkey. But at the same time, I want to ask you, is this likely to change in the next few quarters? And what's the most likely trajectory of the economy now? And especially for what concerns inflation, given the new monetary path that the government has now undertaken?
Yeah, of course, inflation is number one, numero uno, if you make consideration when it comes to not only growth for anything and everything regarding economy. Unfortunately, inflation and robust or sustainable growth do not go hand in hand. As a matter of fact, high inflation is number one nemesis for sustainable growth, which can be translated, refined, defined by so-called development. And of course, when you have only growth based on inflation's bloating effects, you start to grow some suspicion about the sustainability and future steadiness of growth. Therefore, Turkey's number one challenge, not only in growth prospects, but as an overall kind of a challenge, is to take inflation under control so that inflation's bloating effects and ever disillusionary kind of effects on economy shall be diminished, shall be evaporated. And then, of course, there's another concern. We shall have local elections by the end of March. So as we have nearly 7 months till the elections, so-called election economics will kick in.
All right.
Therefore, it is of economic administration's great concern